Good morning, Internet. Lizard here with my most controversial video yet. Every cartographer worth their salt knows the sole criteria on which a map should be judged, and that is the rivers. If there is even a single river line out of place on a fantasy map that somebody has drawn for their Dungeons & Dragons world, I practically lose my mind. I am sitting in front of my computer frothing at the mouth with rage that they would even bother to create such an insultingly and appallingly inaccurate representation of their make-believe world. It sends shivers down my spine, the very notion that people could mistake or take for granted the way that a hydrologic system works in a real-life continuum. So I'm here to set the record straight, and I'm here to show you about rivers. So when I first went to the Wikipedia page for rivers, I found that there was no real definition of a river. In terms of, like, objective criteria, because people from different regions of the world have different ideas of what a river means. It's kind of subjective. But we can all agree that they are paths of water that flow over land. I don't think there's any disputing that. A river has a pretty interesting anatomy that we're going to break down. We've got the source of the river. And the source can be a number of things. It can be glacial melt, it can be snow melt, it could be rainfall. A very popular one is the borders of drainage basins, and another very popular one is the groundwater and aquifer systems of the surrounding area, in which case, you know, springs, right? Now, the channel is the space where the water actually flows. And that's kind of what we think of as the river. Surrounding the channel is the floodplain, which is also something I've kind of failed to include in D&D. I never really thought that rivers have floodplains that fluctuate in size based on the time of year, but this is totally a mechanic that someone should include, myself. And then the mouth is where the river meets the sea. I know that they're also called deltas, but a delta might be something else. I don't really know. No, you cannot use mouth and delta interchangeably. A delta is when a river meets and deposits sediment at another body of water. A mouth is specifically the end of a river. So yeah, that's the river anatomy. Another thing I've taken for granted when role-playing rivers for tabletop games is groundwater. It's how we get springs, it's where, like, most American cities source their water from, which is interesting. Maybe placing aquifers in a layer on your map wouldn't be the worst idea, and then you could gauge where your rivers flow based on that. An old rule of thumb that I used to go by was that all rivers end at the sea, but that's actually not true, because we have sinkholes, and a river can just flow back into the ground where it came from. It doesn't have to ever connect to the sea, and I never considered that, and I think it's really cool. And so some rivers are ephemeral, which means they only exist for a part of the year, and in dry places may even be on a cycle of a couple of years. And another cool aspect of this is that when a river's flow decreases, if the mouth of the river meets the sea, then the water in the river gets saltier because the sea can now flow into the river up to a certain point. That could cause entire towns to go through blights of, like, not having water or having to relocate people based on a river cycle, or even just having desert towns spring up for a couple of years before the river dries up, and it's like a thing that happens that people migrate for in that region. There's a lot of really cool world building and culture processes you could implement just by understanding rivers. I mean, I know that most of human society is on rivers, and so by that logic you could argue they impact culture more significantly than any other landform. I'd say they outrank mountains and forests and probably even oceans based on their essential role in a lot of our faculties throughout history. Faculties? So yeah, that's the basic easy synopsis of rivers. This has been Lizard with a quick oh wait, just kidding. So I've heard a lot of times that rivers can't connect, that it's simply unrealistic. However, I would like to counter that there is such a thing as a confluence. A confluence is where multiple rivers connect. Yes, it's a geographic phenomenon. No, it's not very common. However, the Wikipedia page does include a lot of notable confluences. So while on the one hand it might not be realistic, on the other it does occur with a notable frequency in our natural world. So just throwing that out there. You can connect your big rivers, you can break them up, you don't have to put them at the sea. I'm not telling you how to draw rivers, guys. That's stupid. I'm just giving you a couple of guidelines to work with that I personally failed to work with. You know, do with this information what you will, as always. There's a link to a video in the description where I've kind of fast-forwarded through me editing my own rivers based on what I learned to make this video. So if you have more questions, go check that out. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe, you know, trying to get my custom URL, 100 subscribers. That's that sweet feel. But more importantly, internet, thank you for watching, and have a nice day, all of you.